Hi everyone, thank you for coming to my channel. I know everybody's busy and I do appreciate the views and the comments that I've gotten on my videos and the followers that I picked up. Normally I've been talking about crazy quilts, but today I'm going to talk about a Needlebook. I made this for the first time. I didn't even know what a Needlebook was until a couple months ago. But I noticed one day I went to my dad's and I had to darn my sweater. It had a hole in it. And so, you know, I grabbed a spool of thread and a needle and some scissors, and I'm thinking, what do I put it in? And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to grab me a Needlebook. I'm going to make a Needlebook. So, a Needlebook, you can research them. This is not a how-to kind of video. It's more of, you know, my Needlebook. Yeah, you know, like I've said before, I do a lot of things for the first time, and you know, you make mistakes and stuff, so I'm going to go through a little bit, but, you know, just for an example, it's pretty thick. Like if you do the whole thing, it's about 4 inches thick in some places. This is almost 8 inches long. Some Needlebooks are real small, and it just depends, I guess, on what you want. So I kind of wanted to throw everything in the kitchen sink and do a Needlebook like that. So a little bit about, well, let me grab something real quick. So I purchased, I guess people use this thick cardboard. I don't know the thickness. I don't have the label on him anymore. But I had some of this cardboard, and this is pretty flexible, but yet stiff. But a lot of people use this cardboard for, they'll insert it to protect magazines inside a plastic sleeve to give it strength. And so I had a lot of these, and I'll show you what I did with them. Is I used my Spellbinder die cut, and I placed a hole punch, and then I used a wire ring to put my colors together. So I have all my threads by color, not by number, but by color, because I don't care about the number. It's the color, unless I was doing a, you know, a embroidered pattern with their numbers. Oh, sorry about that. All I get is spam. I'm going to change my number, in fact. Okay, so back to this. So I decided to make myself a Needlebook. So I just used a ribbon. And I'll show you the front first. So I used this cardboard. And then I used a velvet. You can't see it. It's underneath the lace here. You'll see it a little bit better somewhere else. But so I covered the whole thing with this velvet fabric that I had. And then I used a lace and sewed that all on. Okay, and then I put my trim on. Most of that was by hand. And then I had a vintage doily that I had trimmed up and appliqued that on. And it's not real sewn on, it's just through the edges, because the center kind of lifts up. I don't have nails, but it kind of lifts up, so it's just sitting there. So anyway, you to get your hardcover. But what I did was I cut it into thirds. So I'd cut it here and cut it here, and then I had a spine. Okay, so you can see a spine in here through this little folded, tucked in part, and then I sewed the fabric to the cards. I also glued it, but yeah, that's how I got my book cover, so to speak. All right, So let's go ahead and look at it. The felt I used, you can use, you know, any kind of felt you want. If I should have just bought white or a cream because, but I think that the colors add to it. But anyway, I have a whole stack of felt I probably will never use. But anyway, so let's start at the beginning. Oh, and so you can see the velvet here a little bit more, and then I had some fabric and I trimmed the lace part off, and then I appliqued that on. And I had a hard time, you know, it was hard to decorate. I mean, you really got to be creative and think, you know, what am I going to do? But I love cream, I love the velvets and stuff. So anyway, I had to make sure the velvet was going in the right direction. Anyway, this is the same velvet that I used, and I made myself a pincushion, and I had some decorative pins I thought were pretty. I don't use them so much, but they were pretty. And then I just put some straight pins in there because you always need straight pins, right? So this is a pincushion, and I can stick anything in there. And I used a actually, this was a scarf. This dark purple was a scarf. And so I had gotten another sheet. And then I laid, you know, of course, this is cut smaller than the book. But because you could see how much I had to trim this, you know. I had to trim it like that. But you want to do it like this, you know, this big. And then I used variegated scissors to trim around the edge to give it a little decorative look. And so you make something here and you make something here and you leave this blank because you're going to bend it. All right. So you have one here, and then this gets glued to another felt. I didn't want to be a tutorial here, but just to give you an idea, you'll glue another color and then you'll put something here and here, and then that's how you get your book. So to make it thinner, I could have maybe just used front and back and then flip this front and back. That might have been a little bit better to make it thinner. So you might want to think about that if you decide to make one. So anyway, I sewed a pocket and then appliqued it on. I just did some straight stitching with embroider here. And now the thing is, if you just use one, you can't really, you got to be careful how you hide your stitches because now it's inside and you can't see my stitches. So that's why I did it twice, you know, two felts on top of each other. I threw some safety pins. I use this a lot, so I have 3, so I decided to stick that in there. And then I use these a lot instead of the straight pins, but I just threw a couple of these little clips that I have. And then I threw a little pair of scissors in my pocket. And then over here, I do a lot of embroidery now because of my crazy quilt. And so these are all embroidery needles, and they have big eyes. So if I do ribbon, it's easier to get through. So these are mostly my embroidery needles. And I just stitched, you know, some lace and stuff down. On this side, I put another, I had a napkin, and I made a Battenberg pillow, pocket, sorry. You know, we all have these when you buy your sewing kits. You get sewing kits, but I have my grandmother and my mother-in-law. They had, I inherited their sewing boxes. And I was going through and I decided to keep them. And so I decided, oh, let's just throw these in here. So that's what I did. I brought some extra quilting needles just to show. I probably won't keep these in here, but it was just to show how you can put needles also in your pocket. I've also put some tatting instructions. I'm new to tatting. I haven't even attempted it yet. But and I have the needles in here and I'll show you those. But tatting is using this kind of thread, and you can make some beautiful needle lace with your tatting needles. So, yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing next. I always have a lot going on in my life. 3 projects usually at once. So anyway, I made this little pocket. And over here are my tatting needles. And if you don't know what those are, they are just really long needles. They're very long. And I have 4 different sizes in here. One's real small. So they have a pretty good size eye. So this is a new thing I'm going to be doing, is tatting. Whoops. And I'll show you some videos I get from that when I do it. But I just sewed some lace, and then this came with the tatting needles. It's a needle threader on each end. So I decided to use this for my batting or my tatting needles. So I made a little pocket. This was some elastic that my grandmother had on her sewing kit. It's probably for underwear. But I just sewed some of that same lace that I had up here onto it. And this is my, well, every needle book should have a seam ripper, right? So I just stuck that there. And then on this side, my grandma had a curved needle. She did upholstery. I don't know much about curved needles, but I'm thinking it's upholstery. And then these are just regular sewing needles. So I just stuck a few of those in there. On this side, I have a Battenberg, this is from a napkin, and here's that velvet again. And I use a lot of these type needles for crocheting because I like to make doilies and stuff from this. So these are all the small needles I have for the crocheting doilies. I don't have any more, so these are it. So I decided I took these, the same ring that I use for my, I just knotted embroidery thread around it, and then I attached these to my needle book. I sewed these down so they tack, and then I stuck my needles in there. And then over here I made, this was a scarf that I had. This is also inside my crazy quilt. And I used some velvet, and then I sewed some batting inside. I put some batting inside, and I just hand tacked this down, and then I sewed this lace on there. And then these are my quilting needles. So I could have put something here in here, but I decided not to. I figured this is enough. But you know, I've got every type of needle I need. I have scissors. I have a little bit of thread. And I have my crocheting, and to me, with scissors and clips, I thought this is enough. So I could just carry this, you know, to wherever I'm going. If I went on a trip, or to my family, or out in the yard, or whatever. So yeah, my needle book. Now I had never made one, and I have to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, the difficulty 10 being the hardest, I'd give it an 8. It wasn't easy to figure it out, but I did. And yeah, that's my needle book. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. When I was about 6 or 7, one of my friends was having a birthday, and the mother had baked these little cakes. And then I think it were chocolate cakes, or I think you could have your choice. It was vanilla maybe. And so we each got a little cake, and then the mother had put all the bowls of, you know, sprinkles and chocolate and nuts and icing and And then we were to decorate our cake. And I got to tell you, I had so much fun making that cake. But when I got done, I had a mountain. I mean, my cake was like this, you know. I couldn't believe how big it was. And I look around at all the little girls, and they all had these little petite, beautiful cakes, nicely done. So I guess I just go overboard. But as you can see, my book is overboard. But I've seen some on YouTube that are as thick. So, but this suits my needs. And it fulfills what I needed, so I guess that's what matters. And anyway, that's a Needlebook. And then you just close it and tie it. And hopefully these ribbons will stay intact. Some use buttons for enclosures. And yeah, that wasn't going to work for me. So, oh, see, I got to be careful. This already fell out. So I have to figure this one out. Let's see if this will work. Somehow tack that down a little bit better. As long as it stays upright, it should be okay. And on the shelf, it'll be okay, but we'll have to see. But anyway, that's my Needlebook. Just thought I'd share it. I will be doing another video to show you my my quilt. I've been working on it, but I have been busy and I have not put a lot of effort into it. But I'll give you an update on it, and I'll do that in a separate video. So I just want to thank everybody for your comments. I had one comment I will say here. The lady wanted to know if I was going to put out videos to do my embroidery stitches. And I did say that I would, just little short ones. But I got to be honest, I am not a professional embroiderer. And I found a woman on YouTube, and I'm going to share her info on embroidery stitches. And she's far better than I am. So I decided there's enough tutorials out there. I don't need another one, and I will respond to this woman's comment. But I just want to thank you for coming to my channel and giving me your time that I know is precious to you. So short and sweet, thank you so much. And I appreciate the comments. I really do. It overwhelms me sometimes with all the comments that I get, and I'm just so grateful that people want to watch, and it brings tears to my heart. So thank you, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.